Hi, everyone. It's Coach Lynn. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of my ongoing series entitled Monogamous at 13. This is my story where I share parts of my trauma history, my abuse history, from a dual perspective, one as the trauma and abuse survivor, and one is as a mental health professional who is certified in trauma recovery for the purpose of showing you that a person can experience significant trauma and abuse, and we can have recovery and healing from it. And recovery and healing is something that comes to us through small, doable actions and understandings. There is no big, huge, ta-da, I'm healed and recovered moment. It's a process. But what I'm here for, making these videos, is to show you that it can be an absolutely joyous process. That doesn't mean pain-free, but what it means is we can go through our recovery, just like the book by Lundy Bancroft is entitled The Joyous Recovery. That means that we can actually feel good long before we're actually at that moment where we go, hey, you know what? I feel really healthy. I feel good inside. I feel recovered. My life is the way I want it now. And along that journey, there are multiple ways that we can feel good or feel better or recognize that I'm not stuck where I was anymore. I've come away from that stuck spot where I was, maybe, as in my case, for decades. I was stuck and frozen in the same thing for decades. I never even dreamed at the beginning of it that there could be recovery, or that even that recovery was needed. I just thought this is what life is. It hurts, it's painful, and we just get through it so we can bring it all to a blissful end at our old age and finally get out of the trap that we call life. Some of us can get that, you know, that stuck, feeling that bogged down and feeling hopeless. Well, what comes back when we start trauma recovery? Hopefulness. And I'm not a huge fan of the word hope because some of you may know already, I was a longtime fan of Dr. Roberta Shaler. She didn't know she was mentoring me, but she was. And I only got to have one conversation with her on the phone in my life, and it was amazing. And most important thing that I learned from every interaction with her online and in one phone call was that we don't need to get hooked on hope that things will get better. We need to take action so that things will get better. And the actions can be tiny and have massive results. And so that really, really stuck with me, that idea of what she referred to as, it wasn't her phrase, it was a different PhD psychologist that came up with this. This is the intellectual property of Dr. Susan Forward. She invented the concept of something called TTDCs, which means teeny tiny doable chunks. That's what we're talking about here. Trauma recovery usually comes from teeny tiny doable chunks. Thank you, Dr. Susan Forward, PhD. Thank you for that. It is huge for people like me who want concepts and phrases to help other people understand, how do we do this? Because at the beginning, it can feel monumental. It can feel so huge what we're trying to do. And we might not even have a name for it yet. I hate the way I feel. I hate the way life is. I hate feeling like, I hate going to work. I hate being home. The drive between work and home, the only thing that's going on with me is it's running like a movie in my head and I can't get it to stop. What's running like a movie? Every awful thing that ever happened. Every terrible feeling that was ever inflicted upon you by an individual or group. And so how do we break out of that cycle? That's what these videos are about. How do we break out of that cycle, and how do we get back what we want? We do it through, thank you, Dr. Forward, teeny tiny doable chunks. And we don't have to be hooked on hope. Thank you, Dr. Roberta Shaler, PhD. We don't have to be hooked on hope. We can be moving forward with pieces of information, spending time with somebody who makes videos in upstate New York, some lady who likes to sit in her living room / office. I live alone. This is my office. This is where I work with my clients. And I've created a very comfy spot here. You can't see it, but there are 4 comfy chairs around a coffee table here. There is a like an old colonial style wingback chair, that chair right there. I'm pointing to it right now. I'll show you who's in it right now. I'll show you who's that. Who's that? That's little brother. Use his head right here. See him? That's little brother. He's taking his morning nap. He's an early riser, so he gets a mid-morning nap. I don't put him down for a nap. He just takes a nap. Okay, so around this coffee table, there's the old antique rocking chair that I'm sitting in. There's another rocking chair that's from around 1969. Was that, I believe, the year that my parents went and bought it. I remember the night it was brought home into our house. My mother had a new baby, and she had never owned a rocking chair with her previous 4 children. And her wish was to have a rocking chair. And I believe that my father bought that for her birthday. And so that chair is in my home now because no one wanted it when we had to have the estate sale for my mom. And then there's a blue IKEA chair that was purchased at a it's an armchair, but it's a little more contemporary chair, but it's a chair that was purchased at a thrift store. And all of this is arranged in front of a lovely fireplace on a brick wall. And there's some artwork here. There's my pride flag. I am not LGBTQ, but I'm a staunch supporter of LGBTQ community individuals. I've made videos about that before, but I just wanted this space to have comfort in it when people come to see me to talk about some of the most difficult things that they've ever experienced. And they come to me just like they come to other certified trauma recovery coaches, just like they come to every other type of mental health practitioner that there is on the planet. I'm no different. What they do is they come to a mental health practitioner because they're saying the way I feel is intolerable. I don't feel good. And I don't know how to get out of this feeling. I don't know how to get out of this situation. I don't know how to make this abuse that's happening over here that's pointed at me. I don't know how to get it to stop. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to begin. And so, again, comes back to, why does Lin make these videos? Because those people exist out there in the world, and maybe watching these videos will help them to be able to focus into and lean into what it is that is the problem, and then help them to understand that if you don't have the solution to the problem now, give your attention to your feelings, give your attention to self-care, give your attention to learning, and the solutions will come to you. And if you need to partner with another human being who has a certification in trauma recovery or a license in mental health care, then that may be part of your experience that you need. It's part of your process. So today's discussion is about something that happened to me, and it happened to me repeatedly. And I decided that I want to do a discussion about this today because if it's happened to me multiple times, there's a very real possibility that it's happening to some of you too. And if it is, it could be the reason why certain things happen in your life that are difficult for you. It might be the reason why you might have difficulty with something such as public speaking or, doing parts of your job. We'll get in, you'll understand a little bit more what I mean. But I'm referring to if you perhaps if you didn't have this traumatic event happening once or repeatedly in your life, that the things that you're expected to do, obligated to do, paid to do, or parts of your education, things like that might have gone smoother if these things that were traumatic didn't happen. So I have a little grounding stone in my hand. And I've done my exercises to become anchored and grounded before I sat down to begin making the video. If you have not brought yourself into an anchored and grounded state, please pause the video and do that kindness for yourself. And if at any time during this video, if you feel the video is not for you, please shut it off, go into your highest best self-care and leave it for someone else. If it's not for you, no worries. But I would way rather that you walk away from it and go into your best, highest self-care and just lavish excellent self-care on yourself than for you to be triggered watching a video that I made and sitting wherever you are feeling awful. I don't want that for you. And I can't be with you to help you through it if you are triggered. So we always watch our informational videos with some self-support. The best self-support that we can give ourselves, because we are worthy of our own self-care. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is part of trauma recovery, and it's absolutely essential to well-being. I can partner with myself. I can be noticing what comes up for me. And if I don't feel so good from something that I'm hearing and something that I'm processing, safest thing for me to do is to say, oh, I guess I wasn't ready for that just yet, and to go do something else, but to meet my needs first before I go do something else. This is self-compassion that we're talking about. Self-care and self-compassion go hand in hand, and they're vitally important for trauma recovery. So here we go. I'm going to get into it now. Today's discussion is about the trauma of when someone in your family system, somebody in your education system, someone in your extended family, someone in your neighborhood, someone in your world has said to you that you are not enough. They've said to you that you're unlovable. And they use phrases such as what I heard, which was repeatedly, I heard this: no one can stand you. You are an awful person. No one can stand you. When we are exposed to that, I'm being very careful here, and I don't want to say that it causes tremendous damage, because first of all, number one, I will never, ever, ever tell you that you are a damaged human being. I despise that phrase. I'm going to tell you how I came to despise the phrase that, we are damaged. And I'll tell you that was part of trauma education at IAOTRC. Okay, I'm just going to say that right out. One of the things that is just over and over and over and over and over again stated: you are not damaged. Your client is not damaged. So I came up with my own expression for that, and you hear me say it all the time in my videos. We are not faulty, bad, broken, shameful, damaged, or malfunctioning. That's just the way I say it to people. We are not faulty, bad, broken, damaged, shameful, malfunctioning. It changes a little bit. Every once in a while, a couple of the words will be substituted out for something else. But the message is the same. We are not bad, faulty, shameful, broken, malfunctioning, unworthy, undeserving. Sorry, I have a tremendous itch on the end of my nose today, and I don't know why, but it's just itching. So I keep doing this. All right. So when we go out into the world and we experience someone telling us that we are broken, I had it happen to me in one of the most unlikely places, and I can tell you, I wasn't even anywhere near becoming a trauma professional at that point of my life. But it happened. This happened to me in 2021. I went to an Al Anon meeting in my town. And at that Al Anon meeting, one of the first things that the person who was conducting or leading the meeting that day, I was at my very first one. And then, I had met everybody and they welcomed me. And the meeting was about to start in a few minutes. And they told me how much it would cost me to be at this meeting, how much I would have to pay. And they said, we're not going to force you to pay it because it's your first day. We're going to let you off the hook. And I'm not kidding. We're going to let you off the hook for this first day. But every day after that, when you come in, you're going to pay this amount. And I opened up my purse and I paid it then. I said, I don't want any special treatment for being here. If you want the money for me being here, I'll pay it every time. And I was not angry at them. But that moment of before we even start, you need to understand the financial policy here. To a person who's highly traumatized and a person who's there because they're in so much pain from the experiences they've been having at home, I just found the whole thing to be insensitive, and I found it to be okay. So the main focus is that I pay up, because that really truly felt to me like it was the main focus. But when the meeting began, one of the first things after reading the opening statement that the person who was leading the meeting that day said was looking at all of us sitting in a circle and pointing to everybody and saying, every one of us is damaged and broken. That's why we're here. We're all damaged, broken people. I wasn't a trauma recovery coach yet then, but I knew it felt inherently wrong to be told that I'm damaged and broken at an Al-Anon meeting, for sure. I didn't get up and leave. I tried going to their meeting 2 more times. And on my third meeting there, we were sitting outside, and the only thing that was going on was bickering about whether or not we should be having the meeting outside, because it was still the height of COVID for the area that I live in. And some people were saying, I don't want passersby to see that I attend an Al-Anon meeting here. It's private. And other people were saying, and I'm not going upstairs into that room to be with all of you in an enclosed space, because I don't know how many of you are carrying the virus. So we're going to sit. I mean, we were sitting in the parking lot about 8 feet apart from each other. And the meeting conducted this way. I want to be inside. I'm cold. Somebody else saying, and it was the month of May in Western New York. It can be a little bit chilly in the morning, and it was a 10 o'clock in the morning meeting. But I would say it was about 70 degrees. So one saying, I'm cold, I want to be upstairs in the room. And the other one saying, I'm not catching COVID, we're staying outside. And it went back and forth and back and forth. And there was a lady sitting to my left in a chair about 8 feet away. And she stood up and she said, this is my first time coming to an Al-Anon meeting. I am in crisis. I need help. And you guys won't stop bickering. And I hope y'all have a nice day, because I'm never coming back. And she got up and she was immediately burst into tears. And she picked up her chair and she went to her car. And one guy got up and walked with her. And when I left, I didn't stay for the whole meeting, because I had looked, I got to my limit with what these people were doing. And I thought, why am I even here? And I'm not going to scold them or anything like that. They're a group. They've been meeting together for a long time, and I'm not getting in their business. I'm just leaving. But when I went and walked to my car, her car was parked fairly close to mine, and I had to walk past them to get to my car. Well, he was conducting a meeting with her alone, standing up in the parking lot. That's what was happening. She got her meeting, as she should have. But what was the overarching message now? But for me, I had heard it 3 times, because I didn't make clear to you that the guy who conducted the meeting, 3 out of 3 meetings that I was at, he said, we're all damaged and broken people. That's why we're here. My feeling on that, I'm going to be very frank, okay? My videos are not for kids, but I'm going to be very frank when I say this to you. Fuck that. Fuck that. And anybody who says that you are broken and damaged, they are a liar. They are a liar. It's impossible for you to be broken. And the concept of you being damaged is so foul. It's so hurtful. To me, it's equivalent to verbally just slapping somebody around. Why would you do that? It's not okay. But that woman did not deserve to be told she's damaged and broken, and I didn't deserve to be called damaged and broken. No, the only thing that happened to me is I had a relationship with somebody who was deeply into addiction, and it was affecting me severely enough that I had an emotional breakdown, had been hospitalized for 10 days in 2021, and I started going to an Al-Anon meeting because at the hospital, at the partial hospitalization program afterwards for 3 more weeks. Okay, it was 10 days and then 3 weeks. And then I started with once weekly appointments with the psychotherapist who was assigned to me. I didn't choose her. It was part of the discharge plan from the hospital. They set that appointment up. They chose the person who was coming from this program, which was me, to go to that counselor. And so all 3 of those places, they said, Lynn, it's really important that you get into a support group such as Al-Anon. You need that. You really, really need support for that particular issue, the long-term addiction that's going on in your life. Exposure to someone else's addiction from having a parent. And I didn't know that they will help you, even if the parent who was, let's say in my instance, it was a parent who was severely alcoholic and highly hurtful, but they're no longer extant on the planet. They've gone non-physical. You can still go to an Al-Anon meeting, even if the person who affected you so deeply is no longer even alive. You can still go. I didn't understand that. I didn't know that there was, I thought, well, he's gone now. I can't go. I can't go get help for this because I don't have an actual alcoholic parent anymore. Doesn't work that way. But when we get told by a person who holds a responsibility, being in leadership for an organization such as Al-Anon or Alateen or Alcoholics Anonymous, if you are a person who holds a leadership role, as it changes in some meetings every week, a different person holds the role of leadership, but it's still a leadership role. And if you're the person who's doing that at that date and time, there's with great, leadership comes great responsibility, right? It's an old expression. With leadership, great leadership brings great responsibility or something like that. I've heard it said many different ways, but it all means the same thing. If you're going to be in a group and you're telling people they're not there because life's going great, they're there because they're trying to cope with something that's highly traumatic to their system. But to tell them, you are faulty, you are fractured, you are broken, you are damaged. Nope. Nope. That is not the way to go. It does absolutely zero good to tell somebody that about themselves. What they need to be told is, and what I needed to be told is, there's nothing wrong with you. You're having completely normal responses to a very out of control set of circumstances, and you might be dealing with multiple situations of addicted people in your life. It could be your partner that's addicted, could also be your parent who's addicted, could be your child who's addicted, could be your grandparent who's addicted. It could even be your supervisor at work who is heavily, heavily addicted, and then being somehow inappropriate with their employees at work, the people who they're tasked with being responsible for at work to supervise them, but also to take responsibility for them. If that person is showing up to their job under the influence of substance or alcohol, they can be doing harm to the people that they supervise. They could be risking them. They could be putting them in unsafe situations. It's unsafe to be, it feels very out of control and very unsafe to be in the presence of a person who's under the influence of one or more substances. It can be very, very, very distressing. But the problem is not that broke you or damaged you. The problem is it affected you. There's a monumental difference between the two. And words carry weight. Words also create pictures in our minds, and they're extremely powerful. And so we need to be very careful what we're saying to ourselves and to each other. Because I would never continue going to a meeting where I'm being told by the leadership, and I didn't know, I never saw anybody else conduct the meeting. So I don't know if each of the people in there say that, or if it's just that one person who says it. But I had a very, very clear understanding way inside of myself. You're not coming back here. You're not going to listen to that again and again and again. What you're going to do right now is take a pause and understand you got through, 50 some years of your life without ever being in an Al-Anon meeting. And the Al-Anon meeting felt like it was harming you more than it was hurting you, right? Yes. Okay, then that's not for us. We're not hanging out there and we're not doing that. We can go find a different meeting. We'll give it a second chance. We'll try a different meeting and see if the same stuff is happening there. And I strongly suspect it wouldn't be. But I have to tell you, honestly, I did not go find a different meeting. I intended to go find a different meeting. I just never did it. So when we have somebody say something really heavy to us, words matter, they carry weight, and statements that are made to us can also come with pictures in our mind. We can remember the scene of where we were while we were being told something that's traumatic. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly who was around me. I know how many people were there roughly. It was about 10 people. And it was just uncomfortable as could be. And it was uncomfortable enough to make the woman who was a first timer get right up out of her chair and almost run to her car. And she was in tears. She was sobbing hysterically, and I don't blame her. And she said, I came here because I desperately need help, and you people will not stop bickering. This is just absolutely awful. And you saw me here as a new timer, and you did not ask me, what can we do to help you? You're a first timer here. Do you want to know how the meetings get conducted? Do you want somebody to sit next to you, to comfort you? Do you feel like, we can't go light on support for another human being. I don't mean caretaking somebody to the point of treating them like a child. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being supportive instead of being a person who's giving false information, saying very, very heavy statements that are based in false premise. It's a false premise to believe that people who attend Al-Anon meetings are broken and damaged. It's false. So this video was originally about when somebody tells you that you're unlovable or that you are broken and damaged or that you are somehow malfunctioning and that everybody knows it. And now it's my job to inform you that about you, because I want you to feel shame. That's why most people do that. They want you to feel shame. What does that mean? I want to control your emotions. Ultimately, it comes down to power to control. Control you how? By controlling your emotions. I want you to feel shame. You didn't feel shame I happen across you, now I'm going to say things to you that will force you to feel ashamed of yourself. And then I'm going to retreat and just leave you with those feelings and fuck you. That is what I experience. And if I experience that in my life, there's a very high likelihood that a bunch of you are experiencing that or have experienced it in your life. Now, I'm going to show you, and I've spoken about it in prior videos, but it's worth repeating for those of you who have not heard me talk about this, okay? I had a falling out with a family member, and that family member, it was a sibling, and she got out her yellow legal pad and wrote me a letter. It was an extremely short letter, and it was all written. It was written in like super, super heavy handwriting, all capital letters with lots of underlinings and multiple exclamation points. Well, it was written on a piece of yellow legal paper, and it was mailed to my house. And I opened it up, and it said, "No one in the family can stand you." That's what it said. No one in the family can stand you. And it said something like, you're always trying to get attention and you're a liar or something like that, in smaller letters underneath the big, huge screaming letters. Excuse me, I just need to have a drink for a moment. It's my weak iced tea, caffeine in the morning. All right. So I don't know if I can't speak to you. I can't dialogue with you. But I can share with you in this video that that did happen to me. What was my first immediate response to that? It was shock, embarrassment, humiliation, shame, rage, anger, pain. It just hurt, just straight up hurt. And then I began to cycle through every single person, thinking of their face, thinking of my most recent conversation with them, and asking myself, did they act the way this letter says that they feel about me? Because it says no one in the family can stand you. That means that there's not one person in the entire family. And at that time, my family of origin consisted of 8 people, mother, father, and 6 kids. And this person is letting me know that not one person in the family can stand me. And it immediately threw me into a process of evaluating every single one of those relationships. And I'm rapidly cycling through all of them. What about the last time I was with dad? What about the last time I was with mom? What about the last time I was with each and every one of those siblings? Nobody gave that indication to me that no one said to me, hey, you want to know something, Lynn? I can't stand you and no one else in the family can stand you. I did eventually bring that note with me to my first psychotherapist that I worked with. Actually, it wasn't a psychotherapist, it was a licensed clinical social worker. And his name was Joe. And what Joe told me was, do you think that person would have said that out loud to you in front of the whole family at a family gathering? Let's say, for instance, it's Easter brunch at your mom's house. Do you think she would just say, quiet everyone, I have an announcement to make. Just a moment, please. Everyone look at Lynn, please. Look at her. And, you know, we've already said grace for the meal, but I just want everyone to know that we all want Lynn to understand that no one here, no one in the family, either her parents or her siblings or their spouses or the spouses and the siblings' children, no one present can stand Lynn. And I just wanted to point that out to her. And we all feel that way, right? What would have happened? That was his question to me. What would have happened? Would they all have just blindly nodded agreement? Yes, yes, we all feel what you say. You are in charge of our feelings, and we all feel what you say. Or would they have said, I'll just, for right now, I'll just call her Carolyn. Okay. Would they have said, Carolyn, have you taken leave of your senses? What is wrong with you? Can you look around? Can you see where you are? Do you even know what this day is about? This is a religious holiday that we're celebrating. Would you actually think for a moment before saying something like that? Because what you just did was cause a horrendous amount of pain in the room. And you've spoken for all these people who never once indicated, especially here today, they never once indicated at all that they feel that this person is so awful that they cannot be tolerated. Because that's what I can't stand you, or no one in the family can stand you. That's what that means. They cannot tolerate being near you. That's my understanding of can't stand a person means. Like, I just can't tolerate being near you. You're so awful. You're so toxic. No one can stand you. That was the message. But what if it had been done verbally at a family gathering? Would she have had the courage to do that? No. Why? Because people would have given pushback and said, that's a lie. How dare you? What is wrong with you? Why do you think that's an appropriate thing to, you're going to speak my feelings without even asking me about something as intensely painful and awful as doing that to somebody? How dare you drag me into that? If you're having an argument with Lynn, and right at this moment you don't like her, and you want other people to not like her or have any relationship with her because you're so insecure and childish, and you feel like you need to control other people's experiences with other people. You need to control their relationships. You need to control how any one individual anywhere is perceived by lots of other people. All of this, and I'm sure some of you are saying it right out loud, this is narcissism. This is the classic behavior of a narcissistic person, particularly the malignant narcissist, to be truthful, because you would have to be so low on conscience. You would have to be so low on remorse to be able to do something like that to a person. To, not just me, to any person. To mail them a letter that says, no one in the family can stand you, and then still keep showing up to family gatherings and acting like it didn't happen. I didn't bring it with me and say, I just want all of you to see, at the next family gathering. I didn't say, here's the thing that I received from Carolyn. And she spoke on behalf of all of you to let me know that no one in the family can stand me. And she wanted me to know so desperately that she sent this to me, and today I'm sharing it with all of you. That's what happened. Here it is. I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't humiliate her back. I would never do that. But what happens to us on the inside when someone does something that hurtful and speaks for the whole family without anybody else's signature being on that? It's just like I've said already, it's just a giant fuck you. And I want you to feel so embarrassed, ashamed, humiliated, scared. What would be another word for it? I want you to feel paranoid. I want you to feel ganged up on. I want you to feel that there's all these people and they're all behind me. And picture it almost like a flock of geese where there's that one goose that's at the point in the front of the V, and they're all behind me, and I'm the leader, and I'm showing them the way to where we're going. That person, to do something like that, means they are so highly narcissistic Any person who wants to inflict that amount of pain is also having a significant impulse control problem. Because most of us, if we wanted to send a letter like that, this is what a person who's in control of their faculties would do. They might write that letter. They might even put it in an envelope, address it, and put a stamp on it. But they're not going to mail it. They're going to sit and process it for days and think, should I mail that to that person? And what would be the repercussions for me and for them and for anyone else if I mail that letter? And some of us might just then take that letter, might be losing a stamp this way, but it's just one stamp. But we might take that letter out in the backyard, burn it in a fireproof container or in a little hole in the ground. Or, if a person has a backyard fire pit, might burn it in there and walk away. And just say, I processed my rage feelings towards that person. Excuse me for one moment. But what are the after effects? Okay. For 1 second, I just want to go back to processing it with a a letter burning ceremony. Okay. Most of us know we're going to think that in that direction. Let's not put the stamp on it, but that's just minutia. But what would we be doing in that process if we felt, if you or I felt that badly towards somebody? We might write a letter like that and do the letter burning process. There are some people who've done it hundreds of times. There are some people who've never done it. I personally have done it. It feels amazing. And it feels so much better and healthier than having the emotional and relationship fallout from doing a really rash decision and sending something to somebody. When I was younger, I did send things to people and I did not have as much self-control and respect for myself and respect for other people. And we don't have to respect someone who abuses us. I just want to be very clear about that. But I had respect for them enough to know that I wasn't going to do a vicious act against them, because that would ultimately hurt them and hurt me. But when we have something like this happen, where somebody in our family, our extended family, in any situation that we could ever possibly be in, whether it's in a congregation or at work or whatever, but if somebody takes us aside, sends us a letter, makes an announcement, whatever way they do it, to say, I speak on behalf of everybody, and none of us can stand you. You are a terrible person. You should feel ashamed of yourself. You should hate yourself. Some people, and I'm so sorry about this, it's highly triggering, but some people, and I am going to say it because it's true, some people take it far enough to say something as rotten as go die. And when we do something like that, we owe that person a recognition that we did wrong. We owe them an apology and sincerely apologize and say, you will never get that from me again. I recognize it was wrong. I had to do that one time in my life. I said something so inappropriate to someone who was hurting me and hurting me and hurting me and hurting me that I lashed out, and I said something as despicable as, insinuating that they should die. And I felt sick afterwards. I felt immediate regret and remorse. Well, what does that tell me? What does that tell me as a certified trauma recovery coach and as a human being? It tells me that if I can do something like that and feel such remorse for doing it, that means that my emotional well-being is intact, and that I am not a person who is low on empathy or compassion or conscience or ability to manufacture, feel, and express remorse. So it hurts the person that we've done it to, and it hurts us to do it. But it's also really reassuring and edifying to know what was my response to my own behavior when I did that. Revulsion. I felt revulsion at my own response when my response was violent towards a person one time. It did happen. And, we want to slurp those words back in. But most of us are being hurt. When we're being hurt by another person, we're being hurt by a person who would never try to slip those words back in, or to say, oh my God, I just did something so awful to you. Please forgive me. You have my assurance. I will never do it again. I just told you blah, 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 blah. That is a horrible thing to say to a person. I recognized it as soon as it came out. I can't take it away from you. I can't get that out of your ears, out of your mind, out of your feelings. But you have my assurance it will never happen again. And you don't have to forgive me, but I am asking your forgiveness, because with that request for your forgiveness comes an assurance from me. You will be able to take it to the bank that I will never hurt you that way again. And I recognize exactly what words I used that were not okay. And I was wrong. And I was very, very thoughtless. And I was being abusive to you when I said that to you. Because what was I trying to do? I was trying to hurt you. And I recognize that hurting you is terrible, bad, wrong, unacceptable. And I won't do it again. How often do we get that from somebody who said to us, no one in the family can stand you? How often do we get that from a person who has more than once said to us, you are despicable, you are a horrible person, and you don't belong anywhere. There's no acceptable place for you. Don't want you in our world. When somebody says something like that to us, it's so easy to self-destruct. It affects our worldview. It affects our self-view. But if we could look at it as a conscious observer, so we can employ a tool that we call the observer self. So I can kind of just for a few minutes, I can just kind of be over here watching what's going on with me and another person. And I can observe what's going on back and forth, or what did go on back and forth. I can recreate that like a little play in my head for a minute, accurately as possible, and be the observer self, and just watching me and somebody else interacting. And I can be like the non-biased referee. And I can watch that and say, that person just did a low blow against you. And what did you do back? You did nothing. You got in your car and left. What'd you do after that? Well, I was crying, and I was screaming, and I was in a rage. I was very, very upset, and eventually that dissipated. All that energy was discharged. Then what happened? Well, then I started getting letters from that person to tell me the same rotten thing they just said to my face. How many did you get? Well, I think there were 3. Not all of them identical, but one was extremely brutal and other ones were just nasty. Okay, well, you're watching that play out. What does that tell you? What is that person's goal? What is that person trying to get from you? What are they trying to teach you? What are they trying to get you to believe? What are they trying to get from you as a response? How much response did you give them? Well, then when we learn about something called reactive abuse, and there's lots of information, tons of videos about reactive abuse online. And there's books about reactive abuse as well. The book from Lundy Bancroft covers the concept of reactive abuse. And the book is entitled, Why Does He Do That? It's a book about domestic violence, but it does address reactive abuse in it. About how we can, and another person who is excellent at explaining reactive abuse is Melanie Tonya Evans. She's from Melbourne, Australia. She's a life coach, and she has courses, she has I'm blanking on what her what her schema is called, but it's about I believe it's NARP. And with NARP, it's teaching people how to recognize when they're being abused and how to avoid being caught up in reactive abuse, so that you don't get seen as the person who's crazy, out of control, needs to be arrested, needs to have an order of protection, things like that. It's essentially the concept of keeping your side of the street clean and understanding that the narcissistic person is going to want to get you triggered. That's why they would send the letter that says, no one in the family can stand you. That is them making a big, lobbing a huge bomb into your household when you get your mail to cause you to ignite. That's what the whole goal of that was, so that you will dial their number and be screaming at them on the phone. That way they have the opportunity to start calling people and saying, you should have heard her. She was screaming at me on the phone. But they're not going to say, because I sent them a letter that said how you and you and you and you and myself feel about her. That part is not going to be disclosed. The only part they're going to talk about is, my phone rang today and it was our sister and she was screaming at me, dropping F-bombs, completely all out of control of herself, and she's insane. So when you don't do it, when you don't engage in reactive abuse, they can't take that reactive abuse and use it against you. But they want that reactive abuse. That's like in the movie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I believe it was called. I might be wrong, but you know the movie I'm speaking about, the original movie. To a narcissistic person, and particularly a malignant narcissist, that is the golden ticket to send you that thing, or to say that thing to you that will cause you to just, your feelings, your emotions will just ignite. You'll become explosive in reactive abuse. And that's the golden ticket for them, because then they can now use that against you as proof that no one should be able to stand you. It'll reinforce the thing that they're trying to get everyone to believe about you, and trying to get you to believe about yourself, is that you're unlovable, that you're, in my case, they wanted me to believe that I was mentally disturbed. I got told, you belong in a mental hospital permanently. You shouldn't be out in the world. You should be locked up. You should have to live in a mental hospital. I mean, this person held nothing back. You should be in a mental hospital, was screamed out the car window while her husband was backing down the driveway the very day after our father died. That was her response to me. Because what happened inside the house a couple minutes before, I said no to her. With a highly, highly volatile person who is a malignant narcissist, most likely, shows all the signs of malignant narcissism, but I can't diagnose anyone. When that person looks at you and says, this is what I want, and you're going to comply, and you say, no, I did not agree to that. I won't agree to that. I'm not going to do a terrible thing to another person with you so that you can get what you want. Leave me out. I'm not doing that. I will not manipulate my own mother to get her to do what you want from her right now. She's in grief. She wants to stay home. She doesn't want to go someplace right now. She's crying and she wants to be what she calls in her niter. She wants her nightgown on and her bathrobe on. She was in her 80s. She just wanted to grieve. Her husband had passed the day before. But these two people, her daughter and son-in-law, wanted her to go someplace. And they were demanding that she get dressed and get ready. We're going someplace. And she said, I don't want to go. And so I said, she told me, you go in and talk to her. And you tell her that she's going. And I said, I will not. I will not inflict that kind of pain and control on my own mother. not at a time like this, and not ever. And that was the response, to scream at me that something's wrong with me. I'm faulty, bad, broken, malfunctioning, and shameful, because I said no to a person who holds very, very high traits of malignant narcissism. And so I didn't get anything in the mail, but I got screamed at while the car's going backwards down the driveway. Her head's out the window and she's screaming, "You belong in a mental hospital. You should be locked up forever. No one can stand you. You're a horrible person." Well, when we have somebody doing that, let's just take that apart for just a moment, okay? And then I'm going to wrap this video up because it's running kind of long. What that is they have, if you study the work of Richard C. Schwartz, PhD, he has a lot of books out. He's a very proficient and prolific writer. He's a wonderful author. And he has a book out called No Bad Parts. And that book is on my shelf, and I've spoken about it before to people. But No Bad Parts explains how we have something called internal family systems. You can watch Richard C. Schwartz videos on YouTube. Look him up. He explains internal family systems. He is the inventor of internal family systems. And what it is it shows that we have parts, and sometimes they're child parts. Sometimes that is a little kid part inside of us that is having a tantrum. But they have the body of an adult. This person was, close to 60 years old when this happened, maybe 61 or 62 when it happened. And they were screaming their head off. No, they weren't quite 60. Sorry about that. Screaming their head off about, somebody said no to them. This is a child tantrum that's happening. But a lot of people, when they get told no, when their child parts, who are still very, very, very raw and sore about what happened to them in childhood, they may have a history of abuse in their childhood. And I know for a fact every kid in my family did. When those child parts become extremely triggered, look out, hold on to your effing hat. They're going to lose their you-know-what. And so she was. But this individual, and I call her Carolyn in this particular video. I change the names around all the time for my family members. But Carolyn wanted to inflict the most amount of pain in the last remaining seconds that she had. Cars retreating. It's going down the driveway. They're about to take off. And she left me standing there in hysterics and crying, and she did not care. This person, any person who hurts you on that level, is trying to control you. Why do they do it? Because they want to, and because they have an entitlement. They feel entitled and they want to. Okay. Those two things always. I want to, and I feel entitled to. Okay. What are they trying to do? Gain power and control over you. For what purpose? To get what they want. To get what they want. And sometimes looks like an adult that you're dealing with, but who's actually coming up and waving hello at that time? An injured child from long ago. Most likely. Can they control it? Usually not. Some can for a while. But if it's a repeated pattern, if it keeps cycling through and cycling through, what are we supposed to do with that? The most common sense thing to do, because we can't change them. And Dr. Roberta Shaler had a name for them. I can't say it because it's a trademarked name for them. But those of you who followed her work will understand right away what that is. And she had a name for them, and she said that they're constantly scavenging every relationship and situation for power, status, and control. That is, I want to be on, and her expressions are this. I'm using Dr. Roberta Shaler's expressions right now. This is not my intellectual property. It is hers. And she would say they want to be on the top of the pile at all times. That means I want power, status, and control, and I want to hold it over you. And the way I can maintain that, I learned in childhood, the way to get that is by hurting you as bad as I can possibly hurt you. All of this gives us clarity to understand one really big, huge message, and that is, it isn't about me and it's not about you. When a person is doing that to us, it's all about them. Dr. Roberta Shaler also had another expression. It was, to me, it was just funny as heck, but she would say, it's all about me.com. That's what she said about these people. It's all about me.com all the time. All me, all about me. My feelings, my pain, my boo-boos. And I'm going to use you as supply to help me feel better because I don't know how to comfort myself. I never learned how. Some of us comfort ourselves with food. Some of us comfort ourselves with sex. Some of us can comfort ourselves with gambling. Some of us comfort ourselves with substance, chemicals. Some of us comfort ourselves by, doing exercise, like excessive exercise or things like that. We all have different ways of coping, all different coping mechanisms and maladaptive coping mechanisms. And so not all coping mechanisms are maladaptive. There are two different kinds, adaptive and maladaptive coping mechanisms. But this person that I'm speaking about was using her maladaptive coping mechanisms to try to feel some form of control when she feels out of control, when everything is all just whirling chaos inside of that person and they don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do. And some of them would rather die. And I'm not joking, I'm not being facetious. This is not hyperbole. They would rather die than go to a mental health professional and admit that this is going on within them and they need help. It's highly, highly, highly unlikely that a person who is a malignant narcissist is going to reach out for help and think that the problem could be something within them. They're always going to scapegoat. They're always going to point their fingers and blame other people. And sometimes, like is the case with me, they will fixate on an individual who is going to be the target of their abuse. And that's all that was happening here. Just one person happened to choose me as the target of their abuse. I will never understand or know the actual reason why that happened. I have my theories, but I don't need to have an understanding of why it was me. It just was me. I was the person they fixated on to do their harm and their destructive behaviors towards. Do I have to absorb that? No. Did I shed a lot of tears over it? Yes. Yes. And for a long, long, long time. I can't get that back. The times that I was crying over her behavior, when what I should have been doing was sitting in a beach chair at the beach with my toes in the sand and sipping a delicious drink and playing with my kids and having just a wonderful day. But where was I? Thrown across my bed, sobbing my heart out, wondering what is wrong with me that I'm so unlovable. She had me pretty well convinced for a long time that I am not to be loved. If you're going through that with somebody, let's pause right now for me to verify for you something that is the indisputable truth. If somebody told you that you are not to be loved, if they've told you you are unlovable, if they've told you you are not enough, or you're too much, or you're unworthy of love, that you're problematic, that no one can stand you, that you are the burden to your family, that you are a person who holds no value whatsoever, you're completely irredeemable, that you have no place in a family or in a community or in the world, you have come across some heavy duty liars. You have crossed paths with people who are highly adept at lying, and they lied to you. They're probably toxic everywhere they go. But the most important thing I can tell you is that they lied to you. The truth is that you are lovable. The truth is that you don't have to carry the shame for them. The truth is you don't have to carry any blame. The truth is that you are deserving of love and all good things. And the truth is you're extremely powerful. They want you to think you're weak. They want you to believe you are powerless, completely powerless, while they hold all the power. No, that's another lie they love to tell. These people are highly, highly, highly adept at lying and hurting. And they want other people to believe their lies, and we don't have to. So how do we begin to turn this thing around? Well, with the understanding, I am enough. I am valuable. I am precious. I am worthy. I am not broken. I'm complete. I'm not damaged. I just had feelings that were pain. I felt pain. Doesn't mean I'm damaged. Damage is not equivalent, to feeling horrendous pain from abuse or from loss or from suffering. It's an emotion. It's not damage. Oh man, we get lied to a lot about that. If we've had extreme loss, then we must be damaged. No, 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 no. That's a lie. It's false premise. It means we felt emotions that were unbearable, that we felt pain, that we felt loss. We felt humiliation, shame, abandonment, betrayal, injury from abuse, injury from losses. But that does not mean we're damaged. It means we felt emotions that were painful, and things that were painful happened to us. No truer words have ever been said. Self-care is the very first thing that we need to engage in when we recognize this. Sometimes going low to no contact with the person who hurts us is our very best choice. Sometimes if we can't go low to no contact with them or full no contact with them, then we have to do something called the gray rock method, which means they're only going to get facts from us, no emotion, none. As soon as you're where I can see you, or if my phone rings with you, I become like a robot. And you do not get anything in the way of supply, response, emotional response, verbal response, physical response, none of that. You get none of that from me. And for some people, and I mentioned this before, it's kind of funny, but I bought myself a pair of they're padlocks, padlock earrings. And whenever I had to go near certain people, I would wear those locked earrings as a symbol to myself. They are locked out. They do not get supply from me. And I have these proofs in my ears that I can touch that remind me, shh, we don't give them anything. They're not worthy of it. They're not worthy of interaction with me on a deep level. They only get superficial, yes, yes, no, I'll think about it. That's it. Yes, no, or I'll think about it are the only three responses that I have if I'm near a person like that. And then the other thing was to do some exercises that help me to understand the type of person that I'm dealing with, such as reading a book, listening to podcasts, listening to, audio programs where people like Dr. Shaler or Melanie Tonya Evans or Dr. Ramani Durvasula or Andrew from Narc Daily on his podcast or his YouTube channel, I should say. And people such as Darren McGee, and I believe he's from Scotland. He's a counselor from Scotland, and he talks about what we could do to understand these people and how we can appropriately respond in a way that helps us to recover. And I will say, listening to a certified trauma recovery coach is a huge step in self-care for recovery. But a huge amount of recovery comes from learning what it is that we're dealing with and then recognizing, oh my goodness, it was never about me. It was never my fault. It was their garbage, not mine. They just got it all over me and they made me feel awful. But at no time was I ever anything even remotely like what they said that I was or about me. The things they said about me were just demonstrably false. They are false. That person's a liar. And I don't have to do anything to comfort or associate with or to give supply to a person who's a liar, a betrayer, an abuser, a person who exhibits almost constantly high manipulative, exploitative, Machiavellian, antisocial traits, antisocial personality disorder type traits of low conscience and low remorse, or no conscience and no ability to express remorse. When somebody's doing that garbage, they get locked out. They get locked out of here. Okay. And it's each individual person's choice whether or not to take those steps. But there's so much support for you here. Keep learning, keep going in the direction that you're going in. Leave that person in your dust whenever you can, because it's not healthy for us to keep going through that. We only get sick from it. This has been a really good discussion. I'm so glad that you were here for it today. I'm sorry that this happens in the world, but there's a lot we can do. One of the things that I'll just show you real quick, one of the things I did today is I used my little scent warmer. It's ceramic and I want to be careful lifting it, but it has pumpkin spice scent in it. It smells heavenly. It smells cinnamony. And that's one of the things that I can do for myself. I got to put that on the shelf so my puppies can't get it, but I wanted to show it to you. That's self-care. Filling a room with scent that I love makes me feel uplifted. And I do it with the intention. When I like that, I say, I'm doing this for you. This is part of your healing and part of your recovery. And I do little things like that for you to remind you that you are worthy of love and attention and good things. And this is a good thing, and it's just for you. That's how we do it. We start taking back the little things that were stolen from us or kicked out of our hand over and over and over again. Have the very best day, everyone. Remember, self-care is never, ever selfish. If you're interested in becoming a client, you can reach out to me through my website, through my email or my phone. My email is lin@linbouthillier.com. My website is linbouthillier.com. And you can reach me by phone. It's 716-994-3052. I would love to be your co-equal, attuned partner. Co-equal partner is really important, okay, in trauma recovery. And I would love to help you to create the plan for you going forward, where you choose and you decide in what ways you want to be supported. And then your certified trauma recovery coach is your staunch supporter for your recovery and supports you in whatever decisions that you make and helps to guide you with just pieces of information, books that are available, recommendations for podcasts, exercises that you can do yourself whenever you need to help bring you into a state of anchored and groundedness, and to help you know that you are infinitely worthy of your own trauma recovery, and you absolutely are. So take care of yourself, everyone. Have the best day. Please if you haven't already, like this video, hit the like button right now, and share it on whatever platform you want to share it on. Invite your friends to become subscribers, and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I put up new videos for you. The videos are starting to look a little bit different. They're starting to get some SEO and some thumbnails, which make them look a little bit better. And I really, really appreciate the man who is working with me on that. And I just want to say a very special hello to two of my viewers. One is in England and the other one is in Florida. And I just wanted to say hi to you both because I know that you will know exactly who I'm referring to. Have the best day. Have a great weekend, everyone. Talk soon. Bye.